Joel chapter 3 and verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Yahweh. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak Badash. Double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone, who rule very well, very beautifully. Double salutations to the Akim out here pushing his gospel in truth and sincerity to the best of their ability, given to them by Yahweh Bashem El Shai. Peace, blessings, and salutations be unto the elect scattered abroad. May the election of Yahweh Bashem El Shai, Lord willing, fall upon any houses. This is the brother Quana Watt from the Arizona Great Millstone Camp, coming back at you, Lord will, with the edifying lesson through the spirit and power. Yahweh Bashem El Shai, Lord will, it is edifying. Lord will, it is straight to the point. But it's going to be a quick little, World War III, update, so to speak, man. As it says right here, it says China warns the U.S. has crossed red line, lethal consequences, right? And really, the situation between, America and China over Taiwan, is progressively getting worse, right? And now it's at the point where China is saying, we're not going to, just let this whole situation slide, right? There's ultimately going to be, physical consequence, right, over basically what America is doing, and it's going to get into that, right? It says China recently warned that the U.S. has crossed a red line with its assistance and support of Taiwan, saying that a storm of lethal consequences is brewing. Hey, man. Hey, China's getting tired of America, man. America's constantly pressing those buttons, man. It says the Global Times, a state-run communist newspaper in China, published an opt on Thursday criticizing the recent $80 million military financing program the U.S. announced for Taiwan, and said, with the increasing number and intensity of its intervention methods, the brewing and imminent storm of lethal consequences for Taiwan cannot be ignored. Ooh, that's heavy, man. So China's like getting to the point, man. Shit's about to, the pot is boiling, right? And soon that boil is going to ultimately, blow that top off, man. It says China's strong dissatisfaction and firm opposition are obvious, but China's response to the continuous provocation by the U.S. on the Taiwan question will not be limited to mere statements, right? The Global Times added, right? So again, insinuating that there will be, physical action being taken by China on the U.S., man, right? And you've had talks, or there is talks of North Korea, ultimately, insinuating an invasion on the U.S., right? So again, all these nations, right, are starting to, buck up against America, man. Which again, these situations that we read about, these articles, right, with North Korea insinuating an invasion on America, with going back, I think it was just like maybe the beginning of the year, you had the Russian former president Medvedev talking about and quoting Revelations, I think it was Revelations, the 9th chapter, speaking on how ultimately America is going to be destroyed, right? And everything's going to be, even the concrete's going to be melted, right? You got all these nations ultimately talking about, shooting, nuclear ICBM missiles on America, right? Which is ultimately biblical, right? The Lord is ultimately stirring up, the minds of these, the leaders of these nations, right, to come up against America, right? Which we're going to grab that, but we'll continue to read. It says the remarks come shortly after the Associated Press reported that the U.S. President Joe Biden's administration approved a military transfer of $80 million to Taiwan under the Foreign Military Financing Program, or the FMF program, right? Which ultimately I didn't even know, You know, I'm gonna have to do a little bit more research on that, but hey, it's not too far fetched, right? You got America ultimately dumping trillions of dollars, you know, into Ukraine, you know, multiple times, man, right? Giving them, weapons and, just giving them money, but yet the situation over there in Maui, right? You got America, holding back that money, right? Not giving that money, to their own people, right? But yet they're so worried about, giving money to these other nations for, military action, man, which, hey, it just proves, right? America doesn't, it doesn't have its priorities in order, right? Because America should be focusing on its own people and focusing on its military defense. But America's not focusing on that, man, right? And that's when we, you read in Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, right? Talking about that, unwalled villages, man. That's America, right? Not having, proper, military defense, right? When these missiles get shot off, America's going to be basically naked, man, It says, notifying Congress, the U.S. State Department said the transfer will be used to strengthen Taiwan's self-defense capabilities through joint and combined defense capability and enhanced maritime domain awareness and maritime security capability, right? It says, according to the AP, and FMF is usually used for sovereign states, and China has continued to claim Taiwan as its own territory, while the U.S. disagrees and says Taiwan is an independent nation. Let's keep reading. I'll just read these last three quotes. It says the U.S. decision to provide weapons to China's Taiwan region under the so-called foreign military financing used for sovereign states seriously violates the One China principle and the stipulations of the three China-U.S. joint communiques, especially the August 17 communique of 1982, right, which is ultimately just going into these, agreements and so on and so forth that they have, right? It says this move seriously violates international law and basic norms governing international relations, undermines China's sovereignty and security interests, harms peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait, and sends gravely wrong signals to Taiwan independent separatist forces. Slovakia. On my phone. Satan always trying to click on something, right? It says, and sends gravely wrong signals to Taiwan independent separatist forces. China deplores and firmly opposes them, right? So again, ultimately, America's interest in in Taiwan and ultimately sending money over there is, according to, what China is saying, right? It's causing problems for them over there, man. Which again, we already read that China is saying, this is not going to go, unpunished, right? America will be, according to the scriptures, America will be destroyed, right? And China will be part of those nations that ultimately destroy, America, man. So let's grab this real quick. Got just a couple precepts, man, just to hit the point, right? This is Jeremiah chapter 51, and we'll start at verse 9. Jeremiah chapter 50, and we'll start at verse 9. It says, for lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon, which we know, America is Babylon, right? You can even look it up, on Google, right? Who is the virgin daughter of Babylon? You can literally type that in Google, and it will literally pop up America, right? So everybody knows who Babylon is when dealing with the scriptures, man, right? There's ancient Babylon, and then there's the virgin daughter of Babylon, which would be America today. And in this passage that we're reading, right, this Babylon is speaking on America, right? It says, for lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon, or America, an assembly of great nations from the north country. Now that north country is going into Russia, right? Russia being the main, the main country that's going to, play on America's destruction, right? They're going to be the main contributor to America's destruction, right? We understand that a lot of nations right now are ultimately trying to join BRICS, right? Which is ultimately, the opposite to NATO, right? BRICS, ultimately consists of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. But right now they just ultimately, included Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and a few other ones, which ultimately Iran and Ethiopia are, the allies which are to join, Russia, pursuing Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, right? We'll come back to this. I do want to prove that real quick in Ezekiel chapter 38. And we'll start at verse 4. It says, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. And this is speaking on Russia, right? The Lord is ultimately putting the spirit on Russia to go back into that Cold War type mentality, right? Which we've been seeing like the last few years, right? It says, and I will bring thee forth in all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords, which we see Russia ultimately, they've been calling up their reserves. They've been doing a draft. They've been, obviously they're at war with Ukraine right now with their army, and it's only going to continue to get worse, right? Russia is going to continue to build their army, continue to build their arsenal, and so on and so forth, man, right? And again, they're ultimately bringing their allies with them, as it says right here. It says Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, which we understand that Persia, when you go into it, right, an ancient name for Iran is Persia. So it's speaking on Iran, So again, it's prophesied that Iran and Ethiopia, as well as many other nations would, gather together with Russia against America. And this is what we're seeing, right? They have a plan to ultimately get rid of the US dollar, right? To ultimately dethrone the Western-led world order, right? Which America is at the head of that, right? It says Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet. That's right, man. And that was ultimately what I wanted to get on that. And we'll go back to Jeremiah 50, and we'll start at the top of verse 9 again. It says, for lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her, which is speaking against America, against Babylon. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty excrement. None shall return in vain. And those arrows are ultimately going into those ICBM nuclear missiles, man. Intercontinental ballistic missiles, right? Which, when we see these things out, in the world, right, it ultimately proves the veracity of the scriptures. Now, that word veracity ultimately goes into the truth of the facts, right, of the scriptures, man. Because America, right, along with, Israel, right, the 1948ers that are over there, they have a missile defense system called the Arrow 3 missile defense systems, right? So that just proves, right, that they know that the arrows in the scriptures are speaking on these ICBM nuclear missiles, man. Esau knows, man, right? And they know what's coming, right? They know that their land, America, is finna be destroyed, man, right? Continuing on, verse 10, it says, in Chaldea shall be a spoil. All that spoil her shall be satisfied, saith Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, right? Because again, at the end of the day, these nations are just waiting for America to crumble, right? They're waiting to push that button on America, man, And so are we. We're waiting for the Lord ultimately put the spirit on them to push that button. We understand that Jacob's trouble's got to come first, then World War III. But hey, we're still, we're at the door, man. It's knocking, man. Verse 11, it says, because ye were glad, because ye rejoiced, O ye destroyers of mine heritage, which the heritage of the Lord is the Israelites, man. We understand that America, has been the land of the most, or the land in where, the greatest, punishment, right, for the Israelites has taken place, right? Esau, Edom, right, brought the Israelites over here on ships, right, pursuant to Deuteronomy 28 verse 68, right, brought the Israelites over here on ships to be slaves, right, and they committed all different types of atrocities against the apple of the Lord's eye, man, right, and as the scriptures say in Numbers 35, right, that the only way to cleanse the land, right, is to shed the blood of him that shed it, man, right. So Esau, Edom, right, is ultimately going to, be destroyed, right? All the heathens, right, beginning with Esau, Edom on down, even 2/3 of Israel here in America are going to be completely obliterated, man. By nuclear fire, man. As well as chariots coming down and sending down those laser beams, man. Right? It says, because you were glad, because you rejoiced, O ye destroyers of mine heritage, because ye are grown fat as the heifers that grass, and bellow as bulls, your mother shall be sore confounded. Now that mother is ultimately going into the UK, right? The Britain, right? Because America ultimately stems from, the UK, right? Going back to, I think it was 1776 or 1775, somewhere around there, where ultimately America, quote unquote, got their independence, right? They ultimately separated themselves from the UK, So that's what it's touching on, right? It says, she that bear you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. That's right, man. So America is ultimately going to be, basically, a desert, right? Scriptures talk about in Isaiah 34, right? That America is going to be a place where only the desert creatures dwell, man, right? That there shall be no one, inhabiting this land from generation to generation, right? America will be a perpetual desolation, right? Verse 13, it says, because of the wrath of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. There you go, right? Everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at all her plagues, right, man? You got to have people, when they see what happened to America, they're going to be like, damn, like that's going to be, you know what I mean? That's what it's talking about, man. They're going to be like, whoa, Verse 14, put yourselves in array against Babylon round about. All ye that bend the bow, shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she have sinned against Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. And that's right, man. Right, and here soon we're going to see, Lord will we be part of the elect. We're going to see the destruction of America, man, But I want to grab one more precept and then we'll close out. This is Revelations chapter 11 and verse 14. It says the second woe is past, and that second woe is going into World War II, right? We understand that there's three woes, right? And World War I, World War II, and it says right here, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. That's right, man. So World War III it's brewing, man. The pot is boiling, and soon that top finna be blown off, man. But again, we understand that prophecy, has to happen in order. Jacob's trouble, and then World War III, man. But it's around the corner, man. It's around the corner. So with that, Lord, we was edifying. Lord, we was straight to the point. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rechak Kodash, that belongs to the elder apostles, the elder bishops of Great Millstone. Till next time, I say shalom.